Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to our last day of Call Tracking Metrics Academy. It's been a fun week. So far, we've covered a ton of material, and we have our last bit today. So again, this class is probably going to be just under 2 hours. We've got a lot of exciting content to cover. So let's go ahead and get started. But like always, we like to cover a little bit of logistical items before we start the presentation. So first, every effort was made to ensure that the information provided in today's class is accurate and up to date. Materials for this course are confidential and proprietary, so please do not distribute them. We do have a few course recommendations for you today. One is that you log into your CTM account, and also if you have 2 monitors, we would recommend setting them up to have the presentation on one screen and then your CTM account on the other screen. For today, we do recommend that you have an account with us, and we're also at the tail end, we're going to be covering a little bit on our Salesforce integration. So if you have your Salesforce account, you might want to have that open and pulled up because we will be going over that at the end of the class today. So we have a full agenda here. We're going to be covering our form reactor, our Softphone. We're going to look at our desk mode, the auto dialer. We're going to look at pre-recorded voicemails. We're going to look at Salesforce. And then we're actually going to have a working session for pretty much all of these features. So we're going to create a form reactor. We're going to do a little customization on their Softphone. We're going to create an auto dialer, and then we're going to integrate call tracking metrics and Salesforce, and we're going to add the Softphone and call log into Salesforce. So we have a lot of exciting things to cover today. And again, my name is Jessica Michaels, and I'm going to be your presenter today. I am our Google Guru and Product Coach here at Call Tracking Metrics. And I always like to start with a few exercises just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So if you've been with us all week, you'll know what's coming next. So if you can hear me, will you raise your hand on your GoToWebinar control panel? Just to make sure that everyone can hear me. All right, I see hands going up, and I'll bring those down. And if you can see my screen, should be a lovely blue slide with my face on it. Raise your hand. Okay, I see hands going up. Excellent. So throughout the presentation, at any time, you can leave us a question in the question panel, and we'll address them as they come in, and we'll also address them after or in between sections, and at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So if you can find the question box, let's see, what have we not done this week? I think, let's see, tell me something exciting that's happening with you soon. I feel like there hasn't been anything positive in the news lately. So what is something exciting? Let me know something exciting that's happening with you in our question box. Somebody says absolutely nothing. Oh no, that's sad. Well, it's exciting to be here today, right? And learn some new stuff. Somebody started a new job, a great job. That's awesome. Good for you. Going to West Yellowstone for a 10-day vacation. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I've never been, and it's on my list of things I would love to do. Somebody's going to a concert. I am jealous. I'm going to start a new marketing campaign. That's exciting, and that's why they're here. Awesome. Let me think. I guess something exciting for the Maryland, D.C. area. The Caps won the Stanley Cup last night, I guess. I'm not a hockey fan, but my Facebook feed has let me know that that is a very big deal. So I know that's probably painful for some of our staff to hear because there's definitely a lot of hockey excitement around here. And I'm also going to a concert tonight, so I think that's exciting. All right, so I also like to take some polls throughout the class. So our first poll is just how many classes have you attended this week? Is this your first? Have you been here all week? Just to get a feel for who we have in our attendance today. So, all right, looks like about 75% of us have voted. Let's go ahead and take a look. So, oh wow, it looks like the majority have been here for the whole week. So welcome back and thank you. That would mean we've spent, by the end of the day, just over 10 hours together. About 9% have been here 3 days and 2 days. Welcome back. We're glad to have you. And we have no one here for the first time. So everyone should be pretty familiar with the flow of the class. So welcome back, everyone. And then it's one more. What plan are you on with us? The theme of today is going to be our contact center plan, all the features with it. So if you are not on our contact center plan, we welcome you to participate, but it will make the workshops a little bit more difficult for you because you will not have access to the features. But we don't discriminate. We welcome everyone to attend and to learn. So it looks like only about half of us have voted. So let's take a look at who we have in attendance. So it looks like the majority of us are on the contact center plan. So welcome. We're going to have a lot of fun doing our workshops today. And we do have a handful that are on the business, marketing, and advanced plan. We welcome you. Just note that the workshops will be view only, but you might discover a lot of really cool features that could be worth upgrading to. So we welcome you to attend today as well. But I just do like to make it very clear that most of the features are going to be strictly for the contact center. Somebody's asking for the URL for the handouts. I actually did not have that today. So let me see if I can do this real quickly. See if I can get that and drop it into the handouts. See if that'll work. So give me just a second and I will see if I can pull these for you. Yeah, I checked where all the other ones were and it was not there. So give me just a second. It's downloading and then I'm going to try to upload it into the handouts portion of the GoToWebinar control panel, but they typically don't work. So hopefully we will get lucky today. They are uploading right now. It says they're good, so it should be in the handouts panel. If you wouldn't mind just clicking that and let me know if it worked. And there we go. All right, just had to reorganize myself a little bit. All right. So I think it worked. So we're in good shape. All right, so sorry about that little delay. So let me take down the poll and we will continue with our presentation. Okay. So up first, we're going to be talking about the form reactor, the Softphone agent call scripts, the dialer, and real-time agent reports. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So up first, we have our form reactor. The form reactor is a click-to-call form that is embedded on your website that will immediately trigger calls to your sales team. So it's pretty easy to install. You simply embed the form on your website. You set your routing preferences for the calls. So as website visitors come to your site and complete the form, as soon as they hit submit, it will trigger an outbound call to your queue, and then the agent will connect to the lead. And then, of course, the call will be associated to the tracking source or exact ad that led to it. So the call tracking metrics click to call form can be set up within minutes. You can choose the fields that you want to include and customize the CSS. And decide what you want to happen when the form is completed. So you could actually have it trigger a call back, or you can have it simply log the call in the call log. I've always thought that the form reactor was really powerful because what happens is then the call log really becomes all of your inbound leads. So we can log forms, we can log, text messages and calls. So it really will house all of your inbound leads in one place. So later on today, we're going to have an exercise where we'll actually go through and create some forms and play with them. So we'll have that coming up shortly. So also on the contact center plan, we have the Softphone, which is going to be the browser-based phone, which we like to say, eliminates the bulky phone system and maximizes agent productivity. So it just, on the contact center plan, we'll get a lot of customization for that, which we'll be exploring throughout the day as well. And here's just some high-level features that come with it. So we have the new beta Softphone. We'll have the desk mode. You can customize the phone settings, and then of course you can do inbound and outbound dialing, which again we'll be covering all of this in great depth today. So with it, we can also do pre-recorded voicemails. We can connect it to auto dialers. We can do conference calls, and we can also assign an outbound agent number. So that would be a number that would be unique to that agent. So up first, we have the beta phone. So the Softphone beta allows individuals to access individual users in an account to opt into the latest version of the built-in call tracking metrics phone. And with it, there's a lot of customization we can do, which we'll actually be going over today. So we'll be exploring that shortly. And then we have desk mode as well, which is on the contact center plan. So desk mode, I think, is super handy because it embeds the phone into the screen. So if you've used the Softphone, it's actually really great as a pop-out, but sometimes it's very easy to get lost. It might fall behind your browser. So embedding it just keeps everything that is relevant for your agents right there so that it's present at all times. So we have pre-recorded outbound voice messages that we can do as well. So for agents making outbound phone calls using the Softphone, it allows you to pre-record messages so that you can click to leave it during an outbound call attempt when you hit a voicemail. So that's really handy in saving time. So if your agents are doing a lot of outbound dialing, rather than taking the time to leave a message for each time you hit a voicemail, you can have kind of a generic voicemail that you could leave for everyone. That could be something like, hi, following up to see if we could schedule a demo. Here's my direct line. Contact me, as soon as you can, or something like that. So a lot of cool things we can do with that. And then, so with the Softphone, we can do some custom settings. So phone settings are common settings that can be enabled for groups of users in the account, which will allow you to customize things like answering calls. We can put in custom buttons, custom agent access, how we want to handle missed calls, and we can actually enable a wrap-up panel. And then, of course, inbound and outbound dialing. So agents and queues can use the Softphone to accept inbound calls from a computer using a headset. And for outbound, to make outbound calls to your tracking numbers or from your tracking numbers, you can use the Softphone as well. So we do have a video today to talk about our dialer. So let's go ahead and watch that. And then I know I'm going over a lot of this kind of quickly, but we're actually going to go in and explore all these features. So we're just going to talk about them pretty high level, and then we're going to go in and see it for real. So we will revisit all of it. And here is the video on the auto dialer.
Dialer automatically connects agents with customers and leads, maximizing productivity, reaction times, and conversions in your call center. There are two main ways that companies are using automated dialing. One, to quickly respond to a specific request from a customer, such as a web form or text inquiry. And two, to automatically dial through a list of people, and as calls are answered, an agent on your team is instantly connected. Contacts can be added to your dialer lists by auto-responding to text messages, missed calls, or through an uploaded list. Auto Dialer lets you configure callback frequency from minutes to days based on conditions like whether or not a caller hung up on a previous call, agent availability, previous call lengths, and more. Dialers are a fantastic way to reduce inefficiencies in your agent's day and make them more successful. They no longer have to do things like dial the phone number, manually dispositioning calls, listening to voicemails, busy tone, and no answer, or manually leaving voicemails. It does it all for them. Agents can focus more on closing sales and delighting customers. Maintain compliance with security features like do not call list detection and secure call recordings. Intelligent dialing evaluates the agents to list ratio to ensure an agent is available to take the call. Dial out schedules protect your agents from placing outbound phone calls to locations and time zones outside of the time schedule. The auto dialer works seamlessly with existing CTM tools like call queues, custom triggers, and the Softphone to keep your agents progressing from call to call without missing a beat. The auto dialer ensures that a large percentage of leads are followed up with very quickly and professionally in a short time, significantly increasing the lead to sale conversion rate. Ready to start optimizing workflow and agent productivity? Contact us today for information on how to get started.
All right, so that's a pretty quick overview of our dialer, and let's explore it a little bit more. So with it, we're going to have intelligent dialing, which will evaluate the agent to list ratio to ensure the agent will be able to take the call. It'll help increase agent productivity with automated scripts, pre-recorded voicemails, and repeat call prevention. And we also have the dial out schedules. These are really handy because it will actually protect you from dialing outside of a time zone. So I can tell you with our team here at Call Tracking Metrics, we do service internationally. So if we're placing our outbound calls using the dialer, that will help protect us from dialing our friends on the West Coast at say 6 a.m. and our friends aren't say in the UK or Australia. It'll prevent us from calling them, at maybe midnight or 3 a.m. or something like that. So it really helps protect that. So, and with that, you also get security features like the do not call list detection. So if you have someone who makes it on your list that's in the do not call list, it will automatically remove them and protect you from calling them. So we can also do conference calls and transfer calls with the Softphone. And these options will appear as buttons. Pretty straightforward. I feel like these slides got out of order. Sorry about that. So agents can assign outbound numbers. Assigning an outbound number selects a default from a list for a particular agent to save to them at that time. So that way, if you call your clients, that you always have a consistent number showing. Oh, this is also something fairly new to our contact center plan, or just a new feature in general, which we have our live listen feature. It's actually very pretty. And it'll just populate as the call's going. So we can live listen here. We could actually barge. So if you're a manager and you're live listening and you can hear that the call is going, maybe downhill, and you want to jump in and, provide some input, you can actually barge into the call as another participant in the party. And then we have this coach feature, which will actually allow you, the call manager, to have, it's almost like a whisper that only the agent will hear. So if you can hear that one of your agents is struggling and they need a little bit help on the call, rather than barging in and kind of taking over the conversation, they can coach, which will be a whisper that only the agent will hear. So that's a pretty cool feature as well to help bring back the conversation. And then we also added the drop button, which will kill the call. So if you have somebody who's just, I'm trying to think of a good example. The only thing I can think of is somebody's on the phone and being maybe aggressive or threatening one of your call agents. You could actually just drop the call and it will kill it for both parties. Yep. So we also have the real-time agent report, which provides you with a live dashboard view into the current activity into your call center. So with one glance, you'll know what your current call volume is and what your agents are doing and how the performance has been for the day. So in conjunction with the reporting in CTM, we on calls driven from your online and traditional advertising channel performance. It's important for you also to know what's happening on those calls once they've already hit your call center. So our agent call reports will show you conversions, dollar and quantity by agent. You'll be able to see calls taken by agent, calls missed by agent, average score of calls by agent, agent availability, whether it be unavailable, busy, or in a custom status. I believe you can set up to about 8 custom statuses so that rather than just your agent going offline when they go to lunch or just being marked as unavailable, you could actually have a custom status for lunch, maybe in a meeting, lots of different ones that you could create. You'll be able to see outbound and inbound calls made by agent, calls missed, answered, or busy. Customers use this information to identify performance issues in their call centers and to understand which advertising channels and agents are leading to the most conversions. So most of our call reporting on our other plans is really reporting based on marketing stats like, which advertising channel, which landing page. Why these reports are really going to be built for agent performance and agent productivity. So let's take another look at what that could look like. So here we have a report. So ideally, we would want to see something like this where every block is accounted for. When we see things like this, they're not making calls, they're not online, so what's happening? So with our custom statuses, it makes it really easy to make sure that every minute is accounted for. And this is really handy because we have a lot of people that use us for virtual call centers. So people are working from home. And using our schedules, it will just ring to them during their scheduled times. Once they're off work, we will no longer ring to them. And then for a manager to be able to know what they're doing on a minute-by-minute basis, it's really, it's a lot of very useful insight into what your agents are doing. So here we can see that accepting calls, this was an outbound call, this was in a meeting. So, every minute is accounted for. So how about a lot less talk and a more showing, right? So let's dig into these. And I guess we stole a quote from Bill Gates. It says, the advance of technology is based on making it fit in so that you don't even notice it. So it's part of your everyday life. So that's a lot of what we're trying to do with these features. So let's create a form reactor. So in this, we actually said Instapage, but we're going to use Unbounce today for our demo. We're going to use their integration. We're going to show that, and then we're also going to show creating one using our creating it fully inside of CTM. So let's switch into the call log and do the exercise. Here we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to integrate it with my Unbounce page. Now, it looked like a majority of us had been here throughout the week. So I think it was on the first day we used Unbounce to create a landing page, really just so that we have a testing environment. So I picked one that had a form on it. So let's first go to our settings integrations, and let's scroll down to unbounce. So let's enable the integration. And then we're going to follow the directions here. We're going to need to add an additional script into here. Say add new script. There we go. We'll save it. One of the next steps that it shows on the integration is that we need to add a hidden field, which is going to be visitor underscore SID. And also, anytime you're creating a form reactor, the one requirement in order for it to work is that there's a phone number field. So we need to ensure that that is there as well. So let's take a look at what we have set up. So the first thing we need to do is to make a phone field. So we can add that. And I can go ahead and delete this one. We need to make this required because it won't work if they don't enter it. And then we need to add a hidden field. And then we're going to say this is visitor underscore SID. Let's just double check that we set that right. Yep. And then we can hit done. So what we're doing here is we're making it so that this form and their platform will become a form reactor and then automatically log form submissions inside of call tracking metrics. So next thing we want to do is hit save and republish. So this can be accomplished with many different form platforms. So I know we can do this with Marketo, we can do this with HubSpot, Unbounce, Contact Form 7, Gravity Forms, Instapage. So there's a handful of them that we can accomplish this with. So the last step is to, it's actually the second step, but we're gonna make it our last step, is to post the webhook. So let's come back, and this is where we post the webhook inside of Unbounce. And then we need to make sure that our fields are mapped properly, which they are. And we'll let that go live. And then close. Now I'm just going to click edit and then resave it because sometimes it's a little bit, make just one minor change, 2018, just even do that, and then hit save and republish. Yes. Take just a second. So now we are live. So now if all goes well, as I fill out this form, it should log this inside of the call log. When we're doing an integration where we're linking to a form with another platform, you always need to do a test one first, and then once we do that, it'll create it inside of CTM, and then we can customize the routing. So let's go ahead and fill this out. Looks like the form went through at least. So hopefully, aha, I have a form submission here. So here we can see we now have a form submission. And if I click into it, I can see the form information that we entered. And the last thing now is we can edit this. So to edit a form reactor, we would come to our numbers tab and then form reactor. And now we can go ahead and come in here and create some customization for it. So the first thing we can do is associate it with a tracking number. What I would probably recommend doing is having it dynamically associate it with a tracking source. So just like how we swap numbers based on how the user came to the site, in this case, if we put this on, the form submission will be associated with the tracking source, and the name of the form is going to be managed by Unbounce. So this is where we can customize our routing options. We can have it just log the call, or we can have it actually trigger a callback once it's submitted. So let's say we want it to call back. We have the option of letting it dial the customer first, or if we leave this off, it'll dial the agent first. So then we have to decide how do we want it to route. We can say route number. I'm going to say route to agent, and then I'm going to select myself. And then we create a custom message for this form reactor. So what it'll do, somebody comes to my site, they fill out the form, it's going to trigger a call to me, and then I'm going to hear new form lead from my form name. To accept this call, press 1. And then as soon as I press 1, it's going to trigger an outbound call to connect me to the form, to the person who just submitted the form. Now, I think this is really powerful. A lot of our clients are in the addiction space. So for them, if you can think about somebody's filling out a form saying that, them or a loved one need help, we can contact them, almost instantaneously so that they can be connected to an expert who's going to, get them or help them get to the right place as soon as possible. I think it also has a wow factor for a lot of sales teams because, somebody fills out a form and then, within a minute you can have, your team reaching out to them and being like, hey, we saw you're on our website. So I think it can create a real wow factor. So we can hit save here. And then we also have the ability to send a text message afterwards. And if we wanted to, we could delay. So I don't think I want to delay, so I can just put 0. And then maybe I can say something like, thank you for your interest in our product. So that after anyone fills out a form, we're going to call them in a minute, or we'll be calling them right away, and they will also get a text message thanking them for contacting you. So I think that's pretty cool as well. Hit save. And then if we wanted to also receive a notification, get an email or a text message letting us know that we've had a form submission, we can create those as well. So let's come back to the page. I'll actually put this in the chat if anybody wants to try to fill out the form as well. And I will go to the call log, and I will say, ooh, let's actually do desk mode. Say that I'm accepting calls, and I will do an incognito, just for fun. Let's say we'll make it a Google source, and let's fill it out and see if I get a phone call. All right, there we go. That's me. Thank you. Whoop. Now I can already hear that my phone is ringing. So my, this would be, actually I'll unplug my headset so you guys can hear it.
New form lead from Jessica / June 18 Jessica. To accept this call, press 1.
I don't know why my key press wasn't working, but everything else logged the way it should have. So pretty cool. Again, so what we did there, we integrated with Unbounce. So anytime anyone fills out the form, we can trigger an automatic callback. Pretty cool. So with that, there's other ways that we can create form reactors. That's going to be one using a form from another website. We can also create our own forms and embed them on the site as well. So let's go ahead and do one of those. So let's come back to CTM. I'm going to stop accepting calls in case anyone fills it out, which feel free to do. Let's exit desk mode. And then we'll come to numbers, form reactors, and we can create a brand new form reactor. So we can say new form. We can name our form. So here's some pre-populated ones. Landing page form. We could do a header. So it'd be like request a callback. And then we'll have some fields already populated. So it'll give you the ability to customize them a little bit. So we could say this is required, or maybe we want it to be half width. Phone number, now that's going to need to be required. Ask for the country code, recommended. Ask for an email address. Then we can customize what we want the submit button to look like. So maybe have it say call me rather than submit. And then if we needed to put a little disclaimer, especially if we're going to send a text message, we might need to say that by hitting call back, you're opting in to us triggering a call and sending you a text message. So we could put some custom information here if we wanted to. We can have it check for errors as the user enters information, so that would actually alert them if they didn't put their phone number in properly. And we can rate limit how often people fill out the form. I'm not going to do that because I'll be filling it out a few times. So we can hit save changes at, like I say, 0 minutes. Okay, 1 minute. So it's going to ask us to associate a tracking number to it. We'll leave that. Hit save. So next up we have the, jump just to the bottom. So if we wanted to add additional fields, we could do that. So if I wanted to say something like company name, I could add that. I could say it's required. I could add another one that maybe job title. Let's make these half width. Say save. So next we can customize our style, so we can have it fade in. We could say use fancy drop-down menus. We can customize our style if we want it a little bit more rounded or angled, our size if we want it normal or small, our theme color, we'll go pretty pink today. Our placement, do we want it to the left, on the top? If you had some custom CSS, you could enter that in here. This would be the thank you page. So you have the option of just putting a message in, or you can have it go to a thank you page that you already have on your website. So, you know, something like, you know, / thank you. We'll just leave our nice message. So it will ask you to associate a tracking number with it, but then again, I would recommend using the dynamic association. And then so at first, we can choose to log only, so that will just log it in the call log rather than trigger a callback. So that's always an option, or if we're going to have a callback, we'll need to select the agent, which I'll just make myself again. And then that'll be the message that I hear. And now we have a preview of our beautiful form reactor, which we could actually test right here. So if I want to fill out my information, there it is. And then I can say, call me. And if we go to the call log, it will actually log that, I believe. So that one, yep. So that would be this one. And let's head back over there. So this is the new one. So now what we can do is scroll down to the bottom, and we can install this on our website as an iframe. So we can copy this and we can head back to our page. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this form altogether, and I'm going to add a custom HTML block and paste my code in. Now, unfortunately, most editors aren't going to give you a preview of what it looks like right here. So we would have to set it up like this, hit save, and then republish. So the nice thing about using the widget is then you don't have to really install any other scripts. So let's take a look. So now we have our beautiful form living on the page. So I don't have to worry about setting up any custom integrations. So here's me. Let me add my job title, and I can tell it to call me. There's the message that I created, which again, of course, I could have had it route to a thank you page had I created one. So let's take a look. That should be logged in the call log now. So now you can see here I am again. And 240, yep, definitely me. And if I expand this, it has all of my information in here. Pretty cool. So that is form reactors. A couple different ways we can do them. We can do them using your forms from your landing page or something like WordPress. Like I said, we have HubSpot, Marketo, lots of different products where if you want to use their forms, or you could always come in and use our form reactor widget, which will give you a lot of flexibility as far as customizing what fields that you like, and then the general feel of it. And then if you have a coder handy, you could come in and put your own style sheets in here to customize it to match your page even more. So that is our form reactor. Something else we were going to look at in this workshop is going to be customizing the Softphone settings. So we can come to our settings here. One of the new features for the contact center plan is this concept of team phone settings. So with this, you can create different groups that'll have specific Softphone settings. So maybe you have a sales team and a support team, an HR team, all these different teams, but each team operates a little differently, so you can actually customize who's in what team and then how their phone will be configured. So with each team, you can customize what buttons will be there. So you can have things like auto answering inbound calls. You could put in custom buttons. So maybe certain teams you don't want to allow to transfer calls, or if they're transferring, you want to customize who they can transfer to. You can add additional buttons. You can control phone settings, which is allowing the agents to customize their phone settings. So maybe you don't want them to be able to do that, so you could either enable or disable that. Allowing agents to receive push notifications, so you could disable that for your team. Allow voicemailing or allow voicemail transcriptions. So this is going to be for the agent on their soft phone. So this is you can enable or disable, letting them have the ability to hold or transfer. You could customize for your team, how do you want to handle missed calls? So if somebody missed a call, you can have them keep accepting a call, or if somebody missed a call, have them stop accepting a call. Because if they miss the call, maybe they're not at their desk, so you don't want to keep on routing calls to someone who's not going to be accepting calls. As well as we have a wrap-up panel. So you could create a custom panel using a custom field, or you could have a score panel, or this is a custom field we created yesterday. And so what you can do is after a wrap-up, you can say, do we want them accepting calls? Maybe after the call, you want them to not be available. And then you could set the amount of time. So maybe after each call, you want to give your agents, 5 minutes to wrap up the call, put their notes in, maybe create a ticket, whatever the use case is. So this would automatically make it so that they're not not receiving calls for X amount of time so that they can take care of all the logistical stuff. So a lot of customization around the Softphone. So then you can also control some accesses like allowing to live listen, recordings, barging, coaching. So all of this can be customized, and then of course you can add members to each group, and then you can add managers to each group. So lots of customization around the Softphone. So one of the things I wanted to show you, let me get on my call log, is the live listen feature. I'm trying to think how I would do this. I don't think I have the ability to show you that. But with that, you can live listen, you can barge, we can coach. So there's a lot that we can do there. And also I showed this in one of the other classes, but with the Softphone, we can also, if you pull it out, it will create the call log. So that's kind of cool too with the beta. An additional field with customizing the Softphone is you can create custom action buttons. So this is kind of like how we had the triggers that we went over yesterday, but these would be an actual button on the phone. Triggers are automated actions that'll take place after, say, maybe a call is scored. But in this case, we can create action buttons that will trigger those things to happen. So maybe we wanted one for placing outbound calls, and we hit a voicemail, so we want to call this person back. So we want to create a button to automatically add them to an auto dialer. So I could say add to dialer, and then say add field, and I would just say add to dialer, and then add action, and that's where I can come in here and say add to auto dialer. We haven't created an auto dialer yet. That's what we'll be doing next, but that would create a button on the Softphone that an agent could very easily add that contact to the dialer. So with that said, let's go ahead and create a dialer. So to get to the dialers, we can come to numbers, auto dialers here. We are going to make, I would recommend reading all of this over because there's lots of legal things about dialers, so make sure that you know, you understand what you're opting into. So let's create a dialer for form reactors. So I can say form reactor dialer. So with our standard form reactor, we can place one outbound call afterwards, and it will try to connect with the form submitter right away, but we could also create a dialer, so with that point it'll have multiple callbacks. So if we call back once and it'll get connected, it'll automatically call them back in a cadence that we decide. There are a lot of use cases for auto dialers. It could be, missed calls, maybe during your after hours. Say you close at 5 p.m. and you open again at 9 a.m. You can have all your calls during your after hours schedule be added to an auto dialer, so that when you get back into the office at 9 a.m., all you have to do is hit accept calls, and it will automatically start dialing all of the missed calls from over the break, I guess, or why you were closed. So let's go ahead and review the customization of a dialer. So the first thing you can decide is, do you want it to dial the agent first or dial the contact first? I think there's use cases for both, and I actually see these all the time. I think dialing the agent first and the use cases that I come across is a better option, so that the agent will then have to press 1 to connect, and then it triggers the outbound dialer. Now I know I get a lot of robo dialers that call my cell phone, and when I answer it and there's nobody there and then you have to wait for the agent to connect, I typically hang up right away. So depending on your use case, there's definitely use cases for dialing the contact first, but this one we're going to say dial the agent first. You can also decide the order if you want it first in, first out, or last in, first out. We'll leave it at first in, first out. All right, I like to save as I go. So then the dialer routing. The one thing that is required to use the dialers, well, I guess there's two things. One, you have to be on the contact center plan, and two, you have to have queues built. So I can have my sales queue. So this is where I could customize a message. So I could say this one's going to be a form reactor. So I could say callback from form submission. Yeah, something like that. And if I wanted to, I could tag that call. So I could say something like dialer follow-up, or maybe form follow-up, something like that. And then you could say you can customize the dialer caller ID. So do we want it to be the agent's number, or do we want it to be a best match? So best match is going to look at the area that you're calling and then select the phone number that is closest to that area. So like I've used the example, us here at Call Tracking Metrics, we're in Annapolis or Serna Park, Maryland, which is the 410 area. So what it would do is actually look through all of the tracking numbers that I have and try to pick the one that's closest to the number so it has that local feel. Or you can have it be the number assigned to the agent. So really with a lot of this stuff, it's what makes the most sense for what you're trying to accomplish. There's not really a right or a wrong option. So I'm just going to leave it at best match. And then with our dialer, we can also have it do an enhanced caller ID lookup for the contact that we're dialing out. So we covered this, I think, on the second day. So with the enhanced caller ID, we get more information about the person that we're calling. So we might be able to see like demographic information, household income, their education level, their marital status, if there's a presence of children. So there's a lot of information we can pull. So here's where we can set our time constraints to make sure that we don't dial outside of these times. We can put our dialer on a schedule, which would make sense for business hours. Now, I always like to hop over the criteria first and talk about the frequency, because that makes a little bit more sense to me logically. So here's where we can create our schedule. So in this case, we can say callback in when do we want to trigger our first callback? So maybe I want to wait, let's say 30 minutes before I send my first callback. And then if they set another one to be maybe 1 day later, I can create another one to say maybe now I want to wait 3 days, add another one. I still haven't been able to contact these people. So maybe I'm going to wait a full week before I call them back again, and then I can add another one. So we can also do text, which is pretty cool. So at this point, we waited a week and we didn't hear back from them. So maybe I want to wait, say 1 minute, and then send them a text and say something like, "Hi there, are you still interested in my services?" Obviously, you can be a lot more personal with it. So this is creating our callback cadence. And now there's no limit to how many you can add. We could come back and then, we still haven't connected with them. So maybe now we want to wait 30 days before we call them back again. And then maybe again, we're going to wait now 90 days. Yep. So we'll start out a little bit aggressive. We haven't heard from these people, so we're going to pace it out. But, they were interested in us at one point, so we can give them a little reminder a month later, and then maybe 3 months later, hey, we're still here. Now, that brings us to the dialer criteria. So this is going to say, when are we going to count this as a success, and when do we stop dialing? Because obviously if we connect with the person in the first 30 minutes, we don't need to call them back the next day or 3 days later and so forth. So here's where we can figure, when do we call this success? So one of the things you can do is you can create a confirmation button. So that would show up on the Softphone. So if the agent presses the button to say that, this was a conversion or connected, then that would remove them from it. It could be confirmation on transfer. So this is very commonly used as well. So if you have an accounting department and it's counted as success when you transfer them to the accounting department to make the sale, that's a good use case. It could be confirmation by talk time. So if you actually connect to the person and have spoken with them for, say, maybe over 120 seconds, so that's 2 minutes, then it would remove them. It could be a confirmation by key press. So if the agent's on the phone and then they press, key press 5, that will mark it as success. Or it could be considered if an inbound call comes into the dial number to add it as a success. So that's really if the person calls back. So if you think about it, that's probably a good one too. And these are, you can use multiple dialer criteria. So maybe you want this enabled and confirmation by talk time. There we go, and we could upload a list. So if I already had a list of people that I want to add to the dialer, I could upload a CSV, or I could manually put them in. So let's go ahead and hit update. There we go. So now we have our first dialer created. So from our dialer view, we can see we have our form reactor dialer. It's going to tell us our mode. It's going to tell us what queue it is, our schedule. We're going to have a max of 7 attempts. And this is going to tell us the statuses we have for all of the ones that have taken place. So how many pending dials we have coming up, how many total dials we've had, how many successful dials, and then how many failed dials. So that's if you have maybe you uploaded your own list and the numbers weren't configured properly, or or the numbers aren't in service anymore. So with that, I also wanted to show you, we can go back to our custom action now and create a new one and call it our add to dialer, add to dialer, and then have my action to add to the dialer, and then select my dialer. Then I can save that. And so now this will be a custom action on my Softphone that I could press, and it would, let me call myself back, and then see now we have this custom field to add it to a dialer. So at any time I could add these people to my dialer. So I could have a follow-up dialer. You can have lots of different dialers. So I could add that to my dialer. Pretty cool. As well as we can add people to dialers with the use of triggers. So maybe say at the end of a call, and then to create a workflow. So I might say if the status is no answer, then maybe I want to add a rule, or if the status is hang up, then I can create the action of add to a dialer. And then maybe I have, a missed call dialer, so that if any of these statuses were hit, that we're going to add them to the missed call dialer so that we can follow up with them accordingly. So we create lots of different ways to automate this information. And then, of course, report on it in the dialer interface. So that was form reactors, customizing the Softphone, and auto dialers. So we covered a lot in this first hour. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the question box, and let's take a 10-minute break and rejoin again at 3:10. Okay, welcome back. One of the things that we didn't cover yet is the call scripts. So let's real quick look over that. So to get to call scripts, we have our numbers tab and then call scripts. Since we don't have any created, it's going to default to bring us right into it. So I'm going to name this something lovely like Hello World. And then here's where I can type in my script. So this is something that'll be useful for your agents. I think this is really useful for there's a lot of different use cases. So maybe you're a call center that is actually taking calls from multiple businesses, which is fairly common. So what this could be is a script that's prompt up depending on what company is ringing to you, or maybe it's a script that's going to pop up for your sales team to help them guide down the sales path. So for this case, we're just going to do a real quick example. So I'm just going to say, a little greeting. Thank you for calling. How can I help you today? Something real nice and personal. And then we can save it. And then we can decide for what tracking numbers do we want this to appear for. So let's just say all of them. Why not? There we go. And we are good. So let's come to the call log. And what I wanted to show you, let me go to my desk mode. It's going to place a test call to our number. Let me make it accept calls so we can see the script pop up. So I'm placing a call using my cell phone. Up, so now it's ringing. So I can say answer. It's actually telling me it's connecting me to sales. And then here I have my script that will pop up. So we can see it says, thank you for calling. How can I help you today? Now, obviously, this could be built out to be a lot more informative, but it kind of gives you the idea of what it could look like. And here we can also see the live listen. So we've now joined the call, and you can see all the little sound waves populating. Pretty cool. So if I wanted to, I could barge in, I could coach, or I could just drop the call. So pretty cool. So let's see if I can get to our, yes. So let's say this call converted for $55 and then hit pound. So now we have the call scored for $55. Pretty cool. And that was using our post-call survey that we set up yesterday. Pretty cool. And then we have the script. Yep. So I'm going to switch back to our slide deck. And we are going to now talk about Salesforce. So you already know that Salesforce helps you manage your day-to-day sales and customer service processes, and it does that well. But by pairing the functionality that you're accustomed to with feature-rich call tracking metrics platform, can take all of those processes to the next level, helping you get the most out of your Salesforce and out of your contact center. So you can seamlessly integrate Salesforce with call tracking metrics. That again is only going to be offered on the contact center plan. And then with that, we're able to install the Softphone as an open CTI inside of Salesforce, as well as we can install the call log. We can automatically send calls into Salesforce, or we can create new leads with it. There's a lot of customization that can happen. CTM allows you to route incoming calls based on Salesforce assigned agents. Calls will be automatically directed to the agent who has the record ownership inside of Salesforce. For example, if Agent Joe is working with customer Claire and customer Claire calls back, the call will automatically route to Agent Joe instead of a new agent. Yep, and with it, once the integration is set up inside of Salesforce, you can just click the phone numbers to initiate an outbound call. So it makes it really easy and user-friendly. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through and we're going to integrate CTM with Salesforce. And then we're going to jump over into the Salesforce side and we're going to install the Softphone as well as install the call log. And that will be our last exercise for the day. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. So for me, I'm logged into my Salesforce account over here. I just created a Salesforce developer account. Excuse me. So this should be a completely empty account. And because I'm logged into it, it should recognize it. So I'm going to close my desk mode and go to settings, integrations, and then scroll down to Salesforce. So then we're going to say connect to Salesforce. We're going to allow it. Should just take a few seconds. And why this is linking, I see somebody questioned in if we have any tutorials on our Zendesk integration. I believe our Zendesk integration is still in the works. We're testing it out internally here, and I don't believe it has been launched yet. So I don't believe we have any tutorials on it yet. As soon as we do launch that, there'll be a lot of announcements. So I would say pay attention to the newsletter and the blog, and you will be the first to know about it. Okay, so now we are connected. There is so many customization options here that we're actually going to jump over most of them because it's really just configuring it to what makes the most sense for your business objective. So it's things like, automatically create a new lead, automatically associate with Salesforce campaigns. There's so many different options that can take place. Default lead owners, we could set that by user or queue. We can create new tasks. We can manage routers, but I guess really what we can look at is the field mapping. So we can decide what fields we want to map, and do we want to map them as tasks, leads, contacts, or campaigns, or really all the above. So we could say lead mapping on, and then we can look at the different call fields and make sure they line up accordingly with the Salesforce fields. And if we wanted to, we could put in default values. You could always create new mapping and just make sure they go to the right ones. They don't always necessarily. Then we can save our mapping. Same with the contact. By default, it's going to have all of these, and these should be pretty lined up. But then we can always add new mapping in, of course, and then we have a ton of drop downs here that we can select. So we did create some custom fields. So if I wanted to map my custom fields in, which are right here, something like our transaction ID, I could do that. Then I would need to make sure that I have an appropriate place to map that inside of Salesforce, which I probably need to create a custom Salesforce field to map it to. But for now, we'll say it's the birthday. Same with campaign mapping. We can do all that. We can associate campaigns. There's just a lot of information. We can import past data. So if you've been a CTM user for a while and you're just now setting up the integration, you can actually push all of your past data in, and then you could decide, what do you want to qualify by call length, and when do you want to start and end. So you could actually, if I wanted to just send my May calls in, I could do that. So what we're going to look at is configuring the Open CTI. So to do that, we're going to follow these steps, which is to go to the call center and create. We actually need to download this file, and then we'll need to add ourselves as a user. So what I'd like to do is come over and then go to here. So I have my quick help. No thanks. I'm going to search for call center. Now I'll tell you all that I am not a regular Salesforce user, and I've set this up several times, so it is pretty straightforward. So now I need to import my doc that I downloaded, which would be this guy. Say open, import. All right, so then the next step is to manage the call center users. And then I want to say add more users. Now what I can do is just type in my name and tell it to find, and then it should find me. This looks like me, looks good. Add to call center. So now I'm added as a user. And I was just following the integrations right here. So now we should see the CTI adapter under the Contact and Leads tab. So I believe even if I go to the Home tab, now all of a sudden we have the Softphone living and breathing inside of CTM. And I could very easily place outbound calls or place calls to the most recent people who have called me. So pretty straightforward there. So in addition to that, what we can do is we can create a visual force page, and with that, we'll actually go in and import the full call log so that we don't actually have the need to jump between the two systems. So to do that, we want to create a visual page. We're going to say create new. I'm going to name this CTM log. And then hit, make sure that I'm following this right. I'm going to have to paste this information in soon. And then I could decide if I want this to be visible just to me, visible to all users, or a group of users. But in this case, I'm going to say just to me and hit save. So now I believe I would go. And this is where I need to enter in my code that I copied from right here. There we go. And so then we can go ahead and preview it. So now we have the call log living and breathing inside of Salesforce. So pretty cool. I could then also turn on desk mode. So we could have just this saved and not use the CTI, or we could use both, whatever makes the most sense for your needs. And what's cool about these visual force pages too is that you can create them as custom tabs so that the log would just be a button up here. So that is that. So pretty straightforward, and that is our Salesforce integration. There are some other cool things inside of CTM where now if we go to our tracking sources, we could actually assign each source to a unique campaign that we have built inside of Salesforce. So if we have campaigns, for AdWords and ad extensions and website traffic, we could have any call that is associated with this tracking source automatically be associated with that campaign inside of Salesforce. Yep. And let me just look through my notes, make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope. So that is most of our contact center features. A lot of them are very customizable, and the one thing I would recommend with them is to make sure that you test everything when you create an auto dialer. Add yourself first and have it be accepting calls, and then make sure that if you hit the right, success point, that it is removing the people from it. Same with form reactors. I would always recommend testing those to make sure that they're operating properly. And then, of course, if you ever get stuck, we do have our help. We have our help center, which will bring you to documentation that will cover it. You can chat with our support team. You can create a ticket. You could always call in. And then a lot of these contact center plans, features, we have paid support that will actually build them for you. So we like to say, avoid the headache or avoid, running into errors, and have our team build them for you. We're happy to do that, or get it right the first time. I think that's something else, little taglines that we're happy to do for you. We have our academy, which is, of course, this. We have our training hub, which has a bunch of videos and different resources to train you on how to use different areas in our platform. As well as, if you're more technical, we do have our API open office hours. So with that, it's Q&A for our dev team. So this is really a great resource if you're doing any custom settings using the API. I know we have a ton of clients that have their own proprietary CRMs that we're sending data into. And this is a really great way to work with our dev team to ask them questions regarding that. So, and with that, that is the completion of our academy. We've done a lot of exciting things this week. We've started out with an empty account. We've purchased numbers. We've created IVR menus. We've created call queues. We've created agents with different roles. We've created custom triggers, text message, auto responses, what am I trying to say? Post-call surveys, 2 ways, one for the agent, one for the caller. We've looked at customizing the Softphone. We've looked at form reactors, auto dialers, Salesforce integrations. We've done a lot in just a week. So if you have any questions, please type them into the questions box and I'll address them. But other than that, have a fantastic weekend, and we'll be launching another academy in the fall. So there will be a survey which we've sent out every day. This will be our last chance to provide any feedback. We'll probably be changing the format a little bit in the fall based on your feedback. So your feedback is very important to us. We are reading all of them and taking all of your suggestions into consideration. Yeah, so let me see. I don't see any other questions coming in. So thank you all again and have a great weekend. Take care.